And Chair, if you would like to convene the meeting.
Sorry, is that to Dave or to me, Amy Johnson?
Dave is our chair. Can you hear us okay, Dave?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Dave.
Okay. This will be kind of challenging because I'm in Canada right now and I just got the script for this for the meeting tonight. So let me give it a shot. I'm on three screens here. So it's 6:02. So I now call the meeting of the Beaver Dam Budget Committee to order. Will the city recorder please call the roll call?
Yes, Chair. Budget Committee Member Duggar.
I'm here.
Thank you. Budget Committee Member Hartmeyer Prigg.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Nadia Hassan.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Kimmy.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Teeter.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Tivnon.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Beatty.
Here.
Thank you. Budget Committee Member Campbell. Budget Committee Member Hanway.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Johnson.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Newman.
Here.
Budget Committee Member Payne.
Here.
Budget Chair Zatsmari. I'll mark him as present. I can see him on the screen. Budget Committee. That's the end of the roll.
Okay, thank you. I just got the sound on my machine. I will now, well, I guess we're not going to go to the public yet, or we are going to go to the public. I will now open the public hearing on the proposed City of Beaverton fiscal year 2024-25 budget. For those of you who may not be able to stay for the rest of the meeting, we will start with an opportunity for members of the public to comment on the budget before the staff presentations later this evening on the Public Works and the Capital Improvement Program. There will be an opportunity for public comment after the presentations as well. Before I ask the first speaker, I will address how to participate in this hearing. If you've joined the meeting by phone, you can enter *9 to let the city recorder know you wish to speak. Alternatively, if you join this meeting online, use the raise hand feature to show that you wish to speak. Each member of the public who speaks at tonight's hearing will have a maximum of 3 minutes. City recorder, is there anyone here to testify?
No, Chair.
If there is no one here to testify, we will move to the Finance Director's presentation of the Building Fund and the Public Works Fund budget. Debbie?
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So welcome. Good evening, Budget Committee members. Today we will be going through some other funds. So I know we provided a lot of information last week, and get ready, here comes some more. So we'll start with the Building Fund. The Building Fund can be found on page 266 in the binder. The Building Fund is funded through building permit fees paid by developers and property owners. Those fees increase every year by CPI in January, and the last CPI increase was 3.86%. I mean, in February. In February of 2024, we increased those fees by 3.86%. And this fund, it remains stable. So we show the numbers, and as you can see, the overall revenues and expenditures are increasing by 19.2%. So part of the increase in revenues is the increase in the fees by CPI. That next increase will be in February of 2025. This budget adds 2 plans examiners, 2 positions, and one of those positions was added mid-year this particular budget cycle. It also adds 1 FTE inspector. Our building department's pretty busy, so they needed some additional help to get through the work. And then we talk about our capital development fund. This can be found on page 342 in the book. So the capital development fund budgets for non-utility capital projects that promote the quality of life in our city. The funds come from a variety of sources. They come from general fund, grants, donations, other governments. Pretty much if somebody wants to pay us some money to do a project that is on our list, then we will accept the money, provided there's not a lot of strings attached. So all these different sources of funding are a way to make sure that we are able to continue doing these projects. The projects for fiscal year 24-25 include the year-round Beaverton shelter. There's some electrical vehicle charging stations and the repairs to the PRCA. In that capital development fund, as you can see, it's a fairly large fund. In fiscal year 24, those projects are wrapping up, and so those costs have gone down slightly. And as you can see, it went from a $12 million budget to a $4.6 million budget. And that is because a lot of the projects have wrapped up that we've been working on. So this budget does include funding, which includes some of the large grants we received to improve the shelter for that project. It also does include some construction of infrastructure for EV charging stations and repairs at the PRCA. And this budget also has some repayments to the general fund and the lodging tax fund for projects that were completed. The street fund is a interesting fund. As you can see by the last bullet, this fund is struggling a little bit. You can find the information on the street fund on page 232. Our street fund receives revenue from gas tax, right-of-way fees, and vehicle registration fees. Our current gas tax rate for the state of Oregon is 40 cents per gallon, and it's not expected to increase. Washington County charges an additional 1 cent per gallon gas tax. And this is used to maintain our curb pavements condition index. In order to maintain our streets at current condition, we need a significantly larger investment into our street maintenance. Those costs for maintenance materials have increased significantly over the last 3 years. So this is an area where we are struggling to meet our maintenance needs. So overall, the budget is about the same year over year. It's less than 1% reduction. And this really shows how the department really has to prioritize the maintenance needs based on the funding that's available. And we need a significantly, as I said, a significantly larger investment to maintain our current road conditions. And if we want to improve them, that investment even needs to be larger. So the finance department is studying a potential for a transportation utility fee. And again, this fund does have a structural deficit because we are not able to do all the maintenance that we need to do on an annual basis. So we have deferred maintenance in our streets because of that. So I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions so that we can get that. And if not, I have plenty more to do.
Are there any questions for Debbie?
All right.
If not, then the next item is the city manager will present a brief summary.
Not yet.
Oh,
I've still got more. I just wanted to
Oh,
pause a
okay.
minute because we went through 3 funds fairly quickly. I want to make sure that if there are questions, they don't get lost as I continue through the presentation.
sure.
So the next funds, we're going to talk about our utility funds. And so these are our water, sewer, and storm drain funds.
Now, excuse me, Ashley has a question, I think.
Yeah, sorry, Debbie, sorry, Dave, for my slow to type my name in. So I was curious, like I didn't notice in the street fund section of the packet anything about the structural deficit. And I like, if I just missed it, please tell me. But I didn't see that in here, and it's kind of like, how would we have known that? You know, like based on this document that we had a structural deficit in the street fund.
I'm not sure. I mean, we've been talking about with our council, but as a budget committee, we have not brought this forward. We have a couple different funds that are challenged. Our street fund being one that's been challenged for many years and will continue to be challenged until we can either reduce our costs somehow or find some additional revenue for that. So we'll take a look at that write-up and make sure that it's accurate on going forward.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think just on the, it would be really helpful. Like I know that like on this, the fund summary page, like there's not really a section for that, right? It's meant to like talk about major changes from the year before. But like the strategic goals and priorities are really, really great. The program description is great. But because each page is, you know, kind of broken down into the different elements of the fund or whatever, you don't get that roll up view to see like that last slide that you showed where it was, you know, showing that we were running a negative on it. So I think I would just ask like for that to be included in future. I know we have talked about it as council, but I'm not sure that the rest of the budget committee knew. And when we're so focused in on what's in this big binder, like I think it's important for us to just call out where we see those challenges throughout the budget.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Oh, if you'd like, Tim Elsey can provide a little bit more thorough response.
Sure, Tim, if you want to.
And we also have a question from Nadia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have to do, and first of all, Councilor, or Commissioner, I'd like to say that's a great question, but you know, we are tasked with developing a balanced budget. And so it's hard for that to see when it comes across. The way that we're seeing it is that we have our roads rated, and by road rating, that means pavement condition index. We have that done every few years. And we also have techniques to maintain the roads. So we know internally that our maintenance techniques are not keeping the pavement condition index at a serviceable level. And so each year, even though we have to live with our budget, we have to submit a balanced budget, that we are seeing the roads deteriorate, and we have the not only the anecdotal knowledge, but the actual evidence of the road rating to show that that PCI is going down. So we can do a better job of explaining that in future years.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. And since you're on, I just want you to know how much I appreciated your section of the budget. Thought I did a really nice job explaining how everything is tied to the goals. And just a really, really nice narrative. So just, it's not all criticism here. I think your section was really great.
Oh, thank you very much. I'd like to give a lot of credit to Jocelyn Blake for helping us with that.
And if we could, Susan, you had something you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Debbie. On page Roman numeral 21 XXI of the budget message and the supplementary material, we did talk a little bit about the street fund. And the last paragraph on XXI talks about how the street fund expenditures are greater than its revenues, and that we are digging into the fund balance of the street fund by about $2 million. So I just wanted to point that out, and that's why we are investigating, as Debbie mentioned earlier, a transportation utility fee.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, I think maybe then, like, since they're separate, that's how I kind of lost the narrative. So thank you.
Thank you. That clears things up. Now, Nadia, did you have something else?
Yeah, I have a question, Tim, if you could come back, and then just a comment to what Councilor Hartmeyer-Prig is mentioning. Tim, this is a quick one. Can you just talk to us a little bit about, because I'm in the street fund, I'm here for it, I love it. You know, talk to me a little bit or help me understand how projects are identified for some of the transportation initiatives, specifically around good government. And for those of you who would like to know where I am, I'm on page 236, just trying to understand how the city prioritized traffic enhancement projects, such as RRFP, FPFBs, and speed bumps.
You bet. So a lot of that is through our traffic calming program. And so those are put forth through different neighborhoods, through different initiatives. We do go out and meet with the different NACs and look for areas where we can help them with their traffic calming. And one of the things that we do with our street maintenance right now is, especially with our slurry seals, that is, we talk about the deficit in the funding. That is an area where we are limited to the PCIs where that particular affordable maintenance technique will maintain the roadways. Like anything, you can think of a roof on a house or maintenance of any large item. If you maintain that infrastructure, then it will stay good for a long time. But if it gets beyond the point of being maintainable, then you have to reconstruct it. So currently we are doing our slurry seals in a very short band of PCIs where it will make sense. PCI is pavement condition index, 100 is a perfect road, a 0 is no road at all. So we try to do a slurry seal at about a PCI of 77. Now, at what we need to be doing is, and what we're looking for in the future with a transportation utility fee, it would give us the opportunity to go into some older neighborhoods. And oftentimes that would be neighborhoods that are less well served than the remaining portion of the city. And so to be able to prioritize equity in our maintenance activities and ensure that we're maintaining roads, not only the ones that we can right now to keep them at the higher PCI, but also those roads in the older neighborhoods that have deteriorated more and can utilize those deeper rehabilitation techniques. Is that answering your question?
Yes, thank you. I think I just want to make sure, you know, and Tim, thank you so much that we're equitably deciding, right, like where work is happening and just making sure like we're balancing loudest voices with where the need is. So I hear that from that response. So thank you. On Councilor Hartmeyer-Prig's comment, I would love, maybe not this year, but next year, like how we match like the slide to the pages in the budget. Because to her point, like I was also, structural deficit. And so I was kind of trying to look through it and just finding a way to like call that out in here when we're reading so that, you know, we can be a bit more prepared. Just some feedback for you all to think about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, Kevin has a question.
Yeah, thank you. My question is regarding page 267 and the building operating fund. This is on the transfer section, the description of why the transfers this year are different than last year. And it looks like last year we transferred $500,000 from the building operating fund to the general fund to reimburse about half of what the general fund gave the building fund a few years ago to make sure everything stayed steady when we had a lot of financial uncertainty. But we're not proposing, doesn't look like we're proposing reimbursing the remaining 50% this year. Are we thinking about doing that in the future, or can you all just talk about the rationale behind some of that?
Debbie, do you want me to take that?
Please.
Sure. The $1 million that's referred to in the note is the ARPA funding. And the first year we transferred $500,000 to the building fund. And then the next year, we transferred another $500,000 to the building fund. And so the first 50% was in the year prior, and the second 50% is reflected here in this note. So it was the year.
Okay,
Right.
so the reimbursements are complete
Complete.
now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was just misreading that. Thank you.
Now, Mayor Beatty has a question.
More of a comment. And so I think sometimes I struggle with having 11 times of seeing this budget and the institutional knowledge that I think maybe Susan and I are the longest serving budget committee people now. I think it's important for the budget committee to know in 2013, 2014, our road index was near 90%. We were well known about maintaining our roads. We had to make an active choice in about 2014 or 2015, and maybe Susan can remember exactly what year, where we started funding that program less to fund other things. It was always intended to be a temporary reduction to do something else. It was always intended that we would go back and backfill that money. And here we are 10 years later, and we're living with the consequences with so many of our roads being in a pretty bad disrepair. And so this is just for the council that we need to get a get well plan for the roads. They're our most important asset. It's the most important thing we own, and they have deteriorated more than 30% in a decade. And we're going to end up being pothole city really quickly. And I think what people expect from government is roads and sidewalks and all the other things. So just to say, and I think I've said it 3 budget cycles in a row, we were funding this less temporarily, and we still have not figured out a way to get it back. And maybe it is a transportation fee, maybe it is something else like that, but our roads are deteriorating very, very quickly.
Thank you, Mayor Beatty. There are no other questions right now. So Debbie, do you want to keep on going?
All right, thank you. Okay, let's see if I can get to go. All right, so the utility funds. Utility funds are funded by their ratepayers. The water fund has a fixed and a consumption-based fee, so it's 2 different components that make up the rate. Rate increases are included in our 10-year plan and are necessary to keep our cash flow requirements for our bond covenants and future debt service and our WIFIA loan. And also in our 10-year plan, we have those projects in there for the Willamette water supply system, and our future capital needs are outlined in that 10-year plan, which kind of inform how those rates need to go up to make sure that we maintain the debt service coverage that's required by the bonds that we have issued in the water fund. Our sewer fund also has fixed and consumption-based fees that make up the rate. So they're both for the city, which is the local rate, and for clean water services, which is the regional rate. And then storm drain has a fixed monthly charge based on what we call ESUs, or equivalent service units, where 1 ESU equals a residential household. And there are also separate local and regional rates in the storm drain rates. And so this proposed budget does also include funding to continue our utility assistance program that we work in partnership with Community Action of Washington County to provide to our residents. So for the water fund, the city is taking over responsibility for meter reading from the Tualatin Valley Water District starting August 1st. So this budget does include that. We have hired the staff in this fiscal year to make sure that they are trained and ready to go come August 1st. So this budget includes the meter reading, but the staff was already added in fiscal year 24 for that purpose. It also includes a proposed or a rate increase that would be effective in October. For our water rates, we increase them every year in October. So we did do an estimate based on our current rate methodology, which is 1 rate for across the board, but this is being studied in one of our fee studies on looking at some tiered rates and other possibilities that we'll bring forward for the council to consider in the fall. So they may have to do, it may be pushed past October, just depending on timing. This also reflects that we are transitioning in our water fund from heavily intensive capital spending to more maintenance. And this would be the 5th year of our WIFIA loan supported projects. So our residential water rate increases. So this will be coming to council in the fall for a public hearing to increase the water rates. Those rates are usually increased effective January 1st of every year. What we do is we essentially look at what are the revenue requirements in order to meet our operational needs. And so our revenues from rates, we look at that. And so we're anticipating that our rates will increase about 6%. And we're really waiting for the consultants' work to come in to look at those tiered rates and how we can bring something forward with, a little bit more expansive program on these rates. So any questions on water? Because this is complicated.
We have a question from Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. I am looking on page 359 in the water system quality program. And the budget highlights for fiscal year 25, the 4th bullet there on page 359 says staffing levels will need to be addressed as WIFIA construction projects complete and move into operation and maintenance phases. Can somebody talk more about what that means? Does that mean we'll need more staff in a different program within the water fund to implement some of or to keep the projects running, or what should we be expecting in the future regarding this bullet?
All right, and I will let Tim go ahead and answer that as the leader of our water.
Hi, Commissioners, how are you? Essentially, what that means is that we recognize that we can't build additional infrastructure without ensuring that we plan for the people to maintain it. So it means that we'll have to be looking at our 5-year strategic plan and ensuring that we have enough maintenance staff to maintain the infrastructure that we just spent all this money to construct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions? John?
Yeah, what is the payoff period of the bonds? Are they 30 years? Remind me. I feel like I've learned this before, but I can't remember, and I didn't see it.
I'm gonna phone a friend. Susan?
Actually, they're all different. It depends upon the market conditions at the time that we issue our bonds. So they can go out as long as 30, 40 years, depending on the market. The one thing, though, that is guaranteed is the length of the debt will be shorter than the useful life of the asset itself.
Sure.
And so as we do our financial modeling, we may issue 20-year bonds, just depending on what the market and the rates will bear. So they just really vary depending on what our municipal financial advisors let us know.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of what Councilor Teeter just mentioned and the maintenance of this infrastructure that we're building. Presumably, once the bonds are paid off, we're not going to lower the rates back to pre-bond levels. So some of that capacity might be available to pay for additional staff there, but we might need like a bridge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the WIFIA loan specifically is a very long-term loan. I think that is up to 35 years, but that is the strategy as the debt comes off of the water financial model, that it's actually replaced by increased operations and maintenance.
Yeah, okay. No, I thought so. Thank you for that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Debbie, do you have more information?
I do. We got sewer fund. So the sewer fund, so this is again where our staff is at capacity in maintaining our current system. And as the system expands, we're going to need more staff. So this is the explanation that our Director of Public Works just was giving us on the water side. It also affects our sewer side. Our sewer fund is stable and there are no significant changes in this budget. You can see the revenue's gone up a little bit. Expenses have gone up a little bit. Our sewer rates are charged based on an average winter usage of water during those winter months. You're not irrigating outside, so that's when we capture that data and create an average, and that would be what would be charged on a go forward for the coming year for those customers. So and so our residential sewer rates, again, we included in budget an expectation that we will raise our sewer rates. Both the city of Beaverton and Clean Water Services proposed rate increases that will be effective July 1st. The city will, or the city staff will be bringing forward a public hearing for the proposed rate increase for sewer rates on June 18th. So right, the meeting right after the budget is adopted. And those rates are, again, charged based on the, we use the word CCF. I actually looked it up to make sure I could tell you what that meant. So it's centrum cubic feet, and centrum meaning 100. So 8 CCF is what an average single family residence would use. And so that is typically what we would charge for those customers that don't have an established winter average. So to prepare the budget, we looked at the revenue from rates and charges, and that's expected to increase 30.8%. But keep in mind, sewer is a very small number, so any kind of increase looks really large. And overall, and again, in addition to that, the revenues for the current fiscal year were mistakenly under budgeted. So really, when you look year over year, if we budgeted based on what we're actually receiving, it's about a 6.7% increase over our actual receipts. So any questions on sewer? And if not, I can just go right straight to storm drain. So
Okay.
storm drain.
Okay, go ahead.
I got some nods. I'm just going on. So our storm drain rates.
Debbie, can I jump in really quick?
Yes, please.
Thanks. I just want to make a quick comment here. I guess this is feedback for Tim and the Public Works team. The page 413 for the capital projects within the sewer fund. I really like how it specifically calls out projects that are identified as an opportunity based off of a roadway project or partner jurisdiction that's also doing work. So trying to collaborate with other projects that are going on. So I really like that. And I would love for us to keep on exploring those in the future too. So thank you, Tim and team.
So if you recall, I believe our council members may recall that our Public Works team put together a scoring matrix for capital projects on a go-forward basis. And this is in this particular budget, it's the first time all new projects ran through that scoring matrix. And that is one of the lenses that they look through. Okay, storm drain. So our storm drain rates are a fixed monthly charge based on the ESUs, where the one ESU is a residential house. So depending on the type of building receiving this, paying for the storm drain, it could be multiple ESUs, just depending on what type of building it is. So again, with storm rate, there is a local portion and a regional portion. The regional portion is charged by Clean Water Services, and there are no significant changes in this budget either. So our storm drain rates, when you look at those, it's a fixed monthly charge based on the ESU. They consist of a city local portion and a Clean Water Services regional portion, and are billed on the city's combined utility bill, where the city then takes the money that we collected for Clean Water Services and sends it back to them. Both the city of Beaverton and Clean Water Services are proposing increased rates effective July 1st of 2024. So as I said, you will see a public hearing coming forward to the council on June 18th. And to prepare the budget, we looked at the revenue from rates and charges for storm drain, and it's expected to increase about 10.7%. So I believe that's the end of my portion.
Any questions?
And that's we have more at the end, but that's the end of the other funds. And then I believe Jenny has some stuff she would like to say.
Yes, Jenny, you're up now.
All right, thank you. Well, good evening, Budget Committee. I just wanted to bring us kind of to a close as we're discussing the budget and summarize and just give you some key reminders of some points to keep in mind. Next slide. As you know, we presented you a $5 million budget. It's comprised of $110 million of general funds, $124 million of capital, and $246 million of other funds that Debbie just went through, which were presented this evening. Next slide. And you know that the city has several different funds, but our budget focus really primarily this year was the general fund due to the city's $8 million projected shortfall. Next slide. And so, as you know, we closed an $8 million gap, and we used a combination of resources that totaled $6.6 million, comprised of year-end savings. We had some reserves in there. We were also fortunate to have some interest income, and then we also have transfers to the general fund for services as well. And that was coupled with reductions in our materials and supplies and personnel, including temporary employees, and then also unfilled vacancies. And so this year, we were very fortunate to have no workforce reductions, and those savings were about $1.1 million, and that got us to the $8 million deficit closure. Next slide. So as we prepare to kind of close tonight's discussion, I want to acknowledge the work that we've done around fiscal sustainability and what we've been doing over the past 3 years. And if you follow the timeline starting in 22-23, this is when we started our journey of stabilizing our reserves using ARPA, and that allowed us to do all of our fiscal sustainability planning and putting together an action plan together, which we have implemented over the past 2 years. And I'll kind of remind you of where we've been. So last year, 23-24, we implemented a number of things, including levying the current property tax to the maximum rate. We initiated a user fee study. We conducted citywide efficiency assessments. So we did fleet, reprographics. We're starting human resources and our boards and commissions, to just name a few. And then we also, as I mentioned, implemented workforce and vacancy reductions. And then as a part of the proposed budget, we're continuing to contain our expenses, and we balance the budget, as I said, with mostly reserves and prior year savings. But we're continuing to move forward with a number of studies that Debbie mentioned. So which will be coming up to you shortly in the fall. So we have our transportation utility fee study. We also have sewer, water, and storm studies that are happening. And then we're also going to use the next year to really look at our property tax and analyze that. Because we went to the maximum cap, we want to see how those revenues are coming in over the next year. And then in the out years for 25-26 and 26-27, we're going to continue to focus on managing expenses. We're going to adopt a centralized master fee schedule. We're going to update our utility and our transportation fees. And then more importantly, we're going to be exploring options around revenue generation and cost containment. Next slide. And I know you saw this slide before, but yet despite all of the initiatives that we're putting together now and in the future, we still are going to have structural deficits. And this is why it's really important that we continue the conversation around revenue and services over the next several fiscal years. Next slide. So I want to leave you with this picture, and regardless of our circumstances, Beaverton will continue to do great things and transform the community, and none of this will stop. We'll continue to make great strides as we lean into the hard. And if you move to the next slide, just a great reminder that we're always under construction, and our success is no different. But I really want to extend my appreciation to the Budget Committee, to this council for your continued leadership as you make decisions in this kind of resource-constrained environment. And I also want to recognize and celebrate the work of Debbie Lautner, Susan Cole, and the finance team, along with our department head and leadership team in developing the proposed budget that we presented to you this evening. So thank you very much. And I believe we have some more logistics to go over with you with respect to next steps in the budget process.
Oh, we're going to talk a little bit about the capital.
Oh, sorry, capital improvement.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Are there any questions for Jenny on that recap? If not, Debbie, the capital improvement program.
Yes, so our capital improvement program, as I explained, that our Public Works Department has come up with a prioritization scoring rubric. And that they did use that for all new projects that were proposed this year to make sure that they could prioritize them properly. Again, those projects are scored on 8 categories approved by council. And there's several categories of funding that goes into paying for the capital improvement program. Rates and charges from our utility funds. So those are our enterprise funds. Those are prioritized for debt service, operations, and maintenance. But they are also, we do collect some money to maintain the system and make sure that we're doing those projects that keep it operational. We have state and county gas tax and vehicle registration fees that those feed the street fund. System development charges, which can be used for water, storm, sewer, and transportation projects. And then there's the general fund, of course. General fund is a discretionary fund so that we can use it for any type of project. The Beaverton Urban Renewal Agency has a property tax allocation that can be used on infrastructure projects within the Bureau boundary. And then, of course, we do sometimes get legislative earmarks that inform us of our projects. So our budget framework is we manage a 5-year plan. So what's in the budget for this year is the second year of last year's 5-year plan. So it rolls each year, and we continue to use this 5-year plan to make sure that we're capturing those projects. Many of them span multiple years, and we want to make sure that we have the funding to complete the projects. So significant multi-year projects include our WIFIA program. There are 18 projects that are financed with 165.5 million WIFIA loan. That includes our Purple Pipe system and the first phase construction of the first phase of the North Transmission Line, which is going to begin next month. And then we're in year 5 of 7 in implementing this plan. The Willamette Water Supply Program, that's a partnership of projects with the regional water suppliers to get some supply of water from the Willamette River. Beaverton is a 5% partner in that project, and all those construction projects are expected to be completed and operational in 2026. And the risk of additional costs is low because most of those projects are under contract and in construction now. So they take a long time to build. So the risk of high change orders to add more funding is low. And we are starting implementation of our new stormwater master plan. So this is just to show you some projects that were completed and some that are nearing completion, just in case you were interested. So this we have a lot of projects going on, but this is so we have our ASR well 5 and some water mains and some pump stations. So those are just ongoing projects that are completed this year or wrapping up hopefully this fiscal year. So significant updates. So we are starting the preliminary design of the loop. There is starting some design work on the quiet zones in downtown. We are finishing up the negotiations with Clean Water Services for the master IGA. We're finishing the construction of the Purple Pipe treatment facility and the aquifer storage reservoir, I think it is, ASR. We're completing the renovations on the shelter, which should be done this fall, and wrapping up the Cooper Mountain Community Plan and Utility Plan. And then we are starting to develop a water master plan. So that's the wrap up of CIP. Any questions?
Any questions about CIP? I don't see any. Thank you, Debbie. Now, I'm going to open up a public hearing specifically for public comments on the proposed uses of the state shared revenue. As I mentioned previously, if you've joined the meeting by phone, you can enter 9*9 to let the city recorder know you wish to speak. Alternatively, if you joined online, you can use the raise hand feature. City recorder, is there anyone wishing to testify on state shared revenue?
No.
Okay, well, let's go to the next item then. I now close the public hearing on the proposed uses of state shared revenue. As a continuance of the public hearing on the proposed City of Beaverton fiscal year 2024-25 budget, is there anyone wishing to testify on the proposed budget? City recorder?
Oh, sorry. No.
There appears to be no member who wishes to comment. So, are there any questions or comments from the Budget Committee? If not, I now close the public hearing on the proposed City of Beaverton fiscal year 2024-25 budget. Before we begin deliberations on the proposed budget, we need a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 2024-26 budget as submitted.
25.
25.
25, yeah.
There's a typo here, sorry.
Okay.
Is there such a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we move the 2024-2025 budget forward.
Okay,
Second.
great. Any discussion?
A point of clarification, do we have to include in the motion the specific ad valorem tax rate?
Yes, I was just about to remind the committee, the budget committee does need to specify the tax rate. It's there on the PowerPoint, and also the tax levy for our general obligation debt. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I will move to approve the city's Beaverton FY 2024-2025 budget as submitted and to set the Alberum tax rate for operations at 4.6180 per thousand of assessed value, and to set the property tax levy for general obligation debt as 2218000.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Now, I recognize that there are two known amendment packages to the proposed budget for 24-25. We'll take each proposed amendment one at a time. If an amendment is moved and seconded, we will discuss the proposed amendment, then vote on it. Once a proposed amendment either carries or fails, we will then consider the next amendment in a similar way until all amendments have been fully considered. Now, the first amendment.
So I'd be happy to talk about the First Amendment. This is a technical amendment that the Finance Department has put forward. There are two things here. One is there was a mistake in, so we had a reserve for our operations facility replacement, and it's in the wrong account. So we wanted to just switch that from the to put it into the correct account is $427,364. And in addition, there was a mistake made in calculating the mayor's compensation package. So we need to remove $6,208 from that, which will drop into contingency.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there a motion to pass this amendment?
Sure, Chair. I will move that we approve amendment packet 1, which includes the changes that Debbie just mentioned.
Okay, is there a second? Second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on this amendment package? If not, let's vote on amendment package number 1. Recorder?
Counselor Duggar,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Hart Mayor Prigg,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Hassan,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Kimmy,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Teeter,
Yes.
excuse me, Budget Committee Member Tivnon,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Beatty,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Campbell. Mark is absent. Budget Committee Member Hanway,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Johnson,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Newman,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Payne,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Satsmari,
Yes.
Budget Committee Member Udata. I will mark as absent. 12-2. I'm sorry, 12-02.
Okay, it sounds like the motion is carried. Now we have one other amendment. Can we hear from somebody about that amendment, what that amendment is?
I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chair. It came from me. And so I'd like us to move our judges from 0.8 back to 1.0. We last year when we were doing our budget considerations, this was in like the third tier cuts of suggested changes in the courts. And we moved them down to 0.8. We know that the work is coming. We've asked them to reduce their salary significantly in the last year. I think it's only fair. I know there's plans for the city manager to have moved them up later in the year, but we're talking about two people that work hard for the city that actually work probably closer to the 40 hours that we're not paying them for. They're required to make calls all night. If a police officer needs a warrant or a reason for a DUI, they have to call a judge. They have to get that stuff approved. That's a 24-hour-a-day job. And when they're on call, they're expected to be fit for duty, not out with their families, not on vacation somewhere. And so I think this is the right thing to do.
Okay, do I hear somebody to put this motion forward?
I'd be happy to move this motion forward, Mr. Chair, to move our judges from 0.8 to 1.0.
I'll second that.
Okay, now is there any discussion? Let's see, I think we've got, no, we don't have anybody who wants to discuss this. Calling once, twice, nobody. Okay, so recorder, could you call a vote on amendment package number 2?
Committee Member Duggar,
Yes.
Committee Member Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Hassan,
Yes.
Kimmy,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Tivnon,
Yes.
Beatty,
Yes.
Campbell. Mark is absent. Hanway,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Somebody else.
Payne,
Yes.
Zatsmari.
Yes.
And we had in the chat that Udata had joined, but his audio wasn't audible in the last voice. I can't see the chat on my screen, so I'm going to call for the vote. If we don't hear him, can someone tell me if he enters yes? Udata?
Yes, I was there in the previous one as well, but it was not audible, sorry, some reasons. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so, excuse me. Motion carries 12, yes, or 13 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Okay, the amendment carries. Because we have amendments, we are now ready to vote on the main motion as amended by amendment packages 1 and 2. So City Recorder, could you please call the vote by roll?
Yes, Chair. Udata,
Yes.
Zatsmari,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hanway,
Yes.
Campbell, I will mark as absent. Beatty,
Yes.
she said yes, thank you. Tivnon,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Kimmy,
Yes.
Hassan,
Yes.
Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Duggar.
Yes.
You have 13 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, Recorder. The City of Beaverton proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-25 is approved by this committee, will be forwarded to the City Council for a public hearing on June 4th, 2024. With that, we've completed tonight's agenda. Thank you so much for all of the information and the hard work everyone's put into this, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.